Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So once again, it's tea time. Thank you for joining me. We're not here on the comfy couch, we're behind my desk today. And the reason for that is I want to show you some things on my computer screen. So before I get into that, let me just tell you, this video is going to be about Sony, Canon, Nikon, and also some developments that we just found out in the last couple of days that validates what I said in a couple of vlogs ago. Now, this vlog might have a little bit of gloating.
Like, I don't understand why people gloat. You just make yourself look like a asshole.
I don't do that very often because I'm not always right. But this time I was right with a couple of things, and I'm going to tell you why it is important before the end of this video. So I'm going to try to make this pretty quick. Now, one of the things that we talked about in a couple of videos ago, I said that, well, Sony is making the sensors for like everyone, including the D850. Now, someone said, no, what are you talking about? The Nikon D850 sensor is actually a TowerJazz sensor. Someone else said it's some military grade sensor, I don't know, coming out of like Area 51. I don't know. Whatever a case might be, the bottom line here was some information came out in the last couple of days, and one of you guys were very nice to link this information to me. Also, I spoke about how I believe that Sony, since they're making these sensors for all these other manufacturers, they were keeping their, let's call it A-grade sensors for themselves, and their B and C technology would go out for sale elsewhere. Well, there was an article, or actually two articles, maybe even three, where some of the higher ends at Sony were interviewed. This was, I think, 2 years ago. I don't know. Anyways, they were interviewed and they were discussing how, yes, that technology they keep for themselves. And once they feel that they have gained as much that they can from having that for themselves, they will sell it out to the rest of the companies. Also, what we do know is that the D850 sensor is actually a Sony sensor. Now, how do we know this? Well, someone was, like I said, nice enough to link to AstroCN, CN like China, astrocn.org, where they did a full breakdown of a D850. Now, we all know that Sony models of sensors, they always begin with an IMX nomenclature, right? Well, when you flip this sensor upside down, you will see IMX309AQJ. This is a Sony sensor. But what is interesting here, my take on it, is that they said that even though it is a Sony sensor, it is unlike other Sony sensors currently in their cameras. Why is this important to me? Well, we know that we have A-grade sensors, B, C, whatever, coming out of Sony, and they're keeping their own. And we know, like I said, an A7R3 and the D850 is, let's call it the same sensor with minor changes that Nikon made. Now, being that this is, quote unquote, an A-grade sensor on the Sony side, let's call it a B or C grade sensor on the Nikon side. Let's just call it. The difference between the two is in software, right? The algorithms. That means that the software behind this engine is written very well and is really using this sensor to its fullest capacity. Why do we know that? Or how do we know that? Well, if we get into DXOmark and we look at the specs as far as the cameras that have the highest rating, the top 10 cameras are all Sony. So as you can see here, you have the top camera, which is a Hasselblad X1D 50C. That is a medium format camera with a score of 102. You have the Pentax 645Z, also medium format with a score of 101. And then we have the Nikon D850 and the Sony A7R3 with a score of 100. You have a Sony A7R2, a Nikon D810, a Pentax K1, a Nikon D800E, and the Sony A7 Mark III, as well as the A7R. Those are like the top 10. Okay. Now, look at that score, 100, 100. That means the Nikon D850 did as well as the Sony A7R3. Kudos to Nikon. Like I said, they are, let's say, behind the eight ball a little bit, because Sony has all of their specs, their extra specs that go into their engine. The only thing that they don't have is the algorithms going on in the back end, which of course they can reverse engineer, but we won't get into that. And Nikon's still able to get a score of 100, as well as Sony's A7R III getting that 100. That is fantastic. Now, some people are like, well, where in the hell is Canon? Well, if you look at Canon, you'll find them all the way down the list in position 21, I believe it is, with a score of 91. Not great. Not great. Now, what is also interesting with this chart is all these top 10 cameras that you see here, every single one of them has a Sony sensor in them. Every one of them. And if you look down to the top 20, literally 85 to 95% are all Sony sensors. Sony leads the market, obviously, in camera sensors. And they're making a ton of money from it. So what do we take away from this? Yes, I was right with a couple of things, and I have to gloat a little bit about it. The sensor is made by Sony in the D850, as well as the sensors are put into, let's say, stockpiles of an A, B, C grade, and Sony keeps the best for themselves, all right? So that's great. But what's very important here is I would have to say, and I want your opinion also, I personally think that Nikon, moving into this full-frame sensor wars that are ensuing, okay, I think that they need to move to a different manufacturer for their sensors. They need to be able to take that piece of the puzzle out of the mix. It's very hard to end up with the best camera, or let's say now the best full-frame mirrorless camera, when your competitor, your direct competitor, has the ingredients or your special sauce, right, to the mix. It is very difficult. Now, like I said, kudos to Nikon for being able to really squeeze the sensor that they got from Sony for everything that it was worth and pull the same rating as the Sony A7R III did. Like I said, kudos, kudos, kudos. That's amazing. But moving forward, to make that difference so that Nikon is better than Sony, I really do think that they're going to have to move their manufacturer outside of the Sony's plant. All right. That's just my opinion. I want to know what you think. I also want to know what you think about Canon, how they just sit literally down in the 20s when it comes to the DXOmark rating. What is going on with that? They are making their own sensors. Is it a sensor problem, or is it the algorithm, the software problem? I really don't know. They do have an advantage as of right now, in my personal opinion, because they are making their own sensors, number one. And number two, they are possibly working on this hybrid that will accept EF lenses onto this full-frame mirrorless camera that they were talking about, whereas Nikon has already indicated that they're going to be using some type of an adapter. And the adapter was not going to be as good as if you introduced native lenses to this camera. So I want to know what you guys think. What do you think about Nikon? What do you think they should do? What do you think about Canon? What do you think they should do? And how do you think that Sony sits in this entire mix? Being that leader of sensor providers, can they just sit on their laurels like Canon did for so many years and say, hey, we're making the sensors anyways, you guys do whatever you want. You're going to pay us now or you're going to pay us later. One way or another, you're going to pay us. Or are they just going to knock it out of the park, what they did with the A7 Mark III? What do you think? So that's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. As I always say, if you enjoy my content, please throw me a big thumbs up. That would be absolutely stellar. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you can get all of my content when it becomes available, and click the bell icon so when it is available, you will be notified of it. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all of my photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like, and if there is, please pick it up and support me. I'm out of here. We'll see you in the next vlog. Happy shooting. Take care, guys.